All right. Looks like we're here. Okay. Well, here we go again. Welcome to our third Saturday class. Today we have Robbie Summerour, who is a master gardener and a certified straw bale instructor. Is that right, Robbie?
Absolutely.
Okay. And today's presentation is going to be live as Robbie walks us through her worm composting area, and then we'll take a little trip outside and look at straw bales. So I think this is going to be really interesting. If there are some little tech glitches that we have to fix along the way, we hope there aren't any, but should there be, just bear with us and we'll get it straightened out as soon as possible. As I wrote in the chat, if you have questions, put them in the chat as we go along, and at some point we may take a pause and then we'll address those and then we'll continue. Is that good, Robbie?
Sounds great.
Okie doke. So without further ado, Robbie Summerour, you're based in Hickson area, right?
Correct, yeah.
But you started out
right past 153 in Hamel Road.
Right. And but you started gardening back in New Mexico, your hometown, and you have always tried to have a farm garden everywhere she's lived. And she was also Robbie was a dog groomer for many years.
45.
While you gardened?
Yeah, but my gardens weren't that small. They were just like with my grandfather, and then I would try whatever grow, what would grow in Albuquerque, in Denver.
Right. And Robbie's been with us. She's been at our expos and doing her straw bale. So I think this is the first time you've done a real worm composting presentation. So you were first introduced to straw bale gardening in 2015 and 16. And you're now in your 7th year as a certified straw bale instructor. And she became a master gardener in 2017. So, and she has what she calls her, she has a mini urban farm, which we will see, called Gospel Urban Farmer. So I think, Robbie, are we ready to go?
We're ready.
Let's go. Without further ado, here's Robbie. Put your view on speaker, and then you'll see Robbie better.
Yeah, it will be how's that sound? You got me?
You are perfect.
Okay, super.
Great.
Okay, what I'm going to do is start you from the very beginning when someone introduced me to worms. We're going to do worms the first hour, and then we'll go to the straw bales the second hour. Worms are the great aspect of the castings. Their poop, is great nutrition and stuff, and it improves the soil, besides also helping giving nutrition to your vegetables. It has the nutritions like all the NPK and all that stuff. It's at a lower level than it would be their commercial fertilizers, so you won't overdo fertilizing your plants with worm castings. But it is the most natural thing you can do for your plants is using worm castings. You can also do worm teas, but we won't deal with that today. But what I did was I started out with kitty litters. I was a rescuer, so I had kitty litter containers all the time. And so basically this is a 2-level. This is how you do, you have one area, and then you have the bottom, have holes in them. And basically you put a layer of paper, and then you put your medium in it. And we're going to do some on one of my bins. But this is the very first one, and this is like a more executive brand of one. It has a bag in it, and a bowl and stuff like that. I also have done it in your roasting pans, where you have all your worms in the food and stuff. We're going to get through now. The next stage, what I'm going to do is you need to make some kind of a bedding for the worms. Sometimes you can just put papers and shredded paper and all that in the bottom of your container. But I make what's called a bedding, and it's a worm bedding made of different things. And so the different items I put in it is I put azomite for worms need some rock, and then that's peat moss, and I have eggshells, I have shredded paper, shredded cardboard, coffee grounds, and then save all that stuff that comes in your Amazon boxes. These guys, oh my gosh, the worms love to go in and out of these little holes and eat them. They'll eat them up. Newspapers, I wouldn't do the glossy. And then also paper towels. I have a bucket in my kitchen, in my shop here, that if I wash my hands, dry my hands with paper towels, it goes there. And I'll take that and I'll soak up any of the juice of the food that I'm going to give to the worms. And this hour is going to be really, really fast. It's just a high speed. So if you're interested in helping me out later, if you're interested in learning more about it, just let me know. And so then what I'm going to do too, that I'm going to introduce you to one of the bins. This is called a 360. And it was given to me by the individual that got me into doing worms. And so this is, it's a good one. I do it a little bit different. And let me do here. Normally this sits in here, but I just physically can't lift this all up at the same time. So you might want, everyone might want to mute so that we're won't bounce back. But I lifted this up here, put this over here. It comes in different layers. And the first layer, I have a piece of paper showing me how and what I did with it. Okay. Like on the 22nd, I fed it, the worms, everything. I did some photos of it. I harvested some castings out of it. And then on March 10th, I fed it. So I fed it, today is the 18th, so 8 days ago. And I think I fed it just the other day too. No, I haven't. But then this is what's really cool. Here comes the worms. So they're still eating the carbon. And that is the thing in the, you'll have greens and browns, just like you do on the outside compost. And that you can see how they've eaten all that stuff. So all this brown stuff, that is their wound poop. And so I'm going to show you in the other bin, which is much easier. But this is a different layers, and it comes different ways. But we can expand on that one individually if you're interested in doing, looking at something like that. In fact, I've had a couple of people come over and we put one together. But this is my pride and joy. I love this one over here. And I'm going to turn the light on. And Debbie, you might want to stand. Okay, Debbie's gonna she's my assistant associate, so she's gonna help me with the video. So Suzanne, if you need it moved a little bit, let me know. But this is called a Verni bag. Oh, I want to say back on those roasting pans, if you can see the shelving, I had them maxed with those roasting pans. So I was harvesting worm castings on every single one of those every day. And it was getting tiring to have individuals. I mean, I had like 24 plus roasting pans. I says, So I had this guy. So I just decided to just condense it all into this one, and then and the 360 over there. If you can see inside, you'll go on my Facebook page. It says something about a burrito. And that's where I have a layer of paper, and I put my bedding, and I put my food, and I put another bedding, and I wrap it all up. Well, they have demolished it. I mean, this was back on the 10th, and they demolished it. No, it was on the 10th. And so all that's left is this paper stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw this together. We're going to make one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some paper here. I hope this is not, I do it this way because it's just how I do it. Everyone has their own way of doing it. There is nothing wrong way. Now I'm going to put some of my bedding down in here. And again, there we go. Why I put bedding down is you might get some fruit flies or the gnat flies, fungus gnats. And so if you don't, you can heat up your heat mops in the microwave and kill the eggs and stuff like that. And that will kill your eggs. Now I freeze. Where do I get all my food to feed my worms? Everything you chop up in your when you're making a salad at home, just put a little bag by you and stick it in there. And that's going to feed your worms. I'm blessed that I do pick up some from Aubrey's. They have all their cuttings from all their stuff that they have left over, and I picked up their compost. So what are some foods that we have? And it's frozen. I put it right straight in the freezer due to the fact that if it has any gnats in it or fungus flies or all those, I always rename them all the time. But this is this is cucumbers and squash. I would not feed your worms any dairy, any milk, any bread. Some people do their breads. I don't. I find it mildews sometimes, but worms will eat the mildew. They'll eat the fungus and stuff like that. But I just keep to a routine. Also, too, don't put any greasy meats, anything like that. So when you do have like a casserole that you're eating and you have leftovers and it had some cheese in it or an egg in it or something like that, I wouldn't. I personally, though, I do throw it out in my outside compost. So what I'm doing is I'm putting all this here, and it is good. You know, you see these in big chunks. Sometimes when I'll take this through and I'll cut them up in smaller chunks, it depends on my schedule, because the smaller it is, the more fast they're going to eat it. So this way I know they're going to take a little bit more time to eating this so that I can get back around, because on Wednesdays I like to do my worms and feed them. And so I'm going to do that. Now I didn't use all of this, but I'll put it back in the refrigerator. And then I'm going to cover this. And this is a worm burrito. Keep this in mind. As you know, I started from New Mexico, so I had to bring some of my heritage with me. And I love burritos. And so I'm going to cover that up. Now, in here are coffee grounds, because this is that bedding I shared with you over there, all the ingredients of it. So then you can just put this right here and cover it up. And then this, now there is, I sometimes don't wet this paper, and sometimes I do. It depends on how dry this is, okay? If this is really dry, which this is just perfect. This is just, look at the castings on that. That is just perfect. So I'm not going to wet it. And if you do, you know how your mom growing up or your grandmother had that water and you did the ironing board and you sprinkled it on? That's perfect, you know, just sprinkle it on. I have a water bottle that if I want to, I can just label all your containers as a gardener. And so this way, because the heat, this cover, when I cover it, is going to heat this up. But again, what I use this for, we're going to show in a few minutes. So I'm just going to put this down here, and I am going to cover it up with some of these worms right here. And I would do a neater job, but time permits. But see, did I show you all these worms? Look at all these. Now there's not, let me get underneath this, buddy. When you pull this out of your worms, they're going to be warm. Look at that. Are you guys going ooby doobies? So now your kids can join you and help you on this, but I would be very careful on how they hold their little worms. They might squeeze them to death. But this is fun to watch, fun to do. Now, keep an eye on my Facebook page, and I will do a picture of this like in about 7 days, and you'll see this all gone. So I can water this down if I wanted to a little bit more, but we've got we're going to zoom to the next stage. So I'm going to close this down because one, it will keep any kind of, I do more in here than just my worms. I propagate stuff in here. But this is going to keep it dark, and the worms will go up to more dark than light. But now what I'm going to show you, the neat thing about this bag, there are a couple different brands out there that are like this. There might be a little bit more expensive, but my time is more valuable to me. And this is called a vermi bag, because as the worms are eating, you know, they started down here eating, and they come up here, and they come up here, and they come up here. Well, they're leaving all their castings down here. The thing with this, and that's what will happen too in these guys. With these guys, different aspect of how to empty them out, you're having to dump it over, and you basically have to pull the thing out. There are different ways of, we're now in the stage of, I'm going to show you how to harvest your worm castings. There is one way of harvesting, which I'm going to show you. Oh. I'm going to put a whole bunch of in here. This is, you wanted to harvest out your castings and then put your worms back in there. Now we do need to leave this open. I'll show you why in a few minutes. But so if you put a light on this, and be careful not to put it too much, the worms are going to go all the way back in the back corner. And then you just go like this. And this is the old fashioned way, and still is not the old fashioned way. I still do it. And you go like that. So then you can see if you have any worms, and then you can put your worm back in there. But yeah, I don't want to do it like, but see, they'll, all the worms, if you leave this alone, if you have all of your castings here and you leave it alone for maybe a half an hour to an hour, they're going to settle down in the bottom. That is one way of doing harvesting your castings, getting your worms out. You're trying to basically get your worms out of there. So if that is one way of just doing this, like getting all your castings and all that stuff out, separating it. I hope I'm making sense. And look at, even in your worm bin, you're going to have things, if there's seeds in there, they're going to mature because it's warm in there. These worms really heat up. Now, another way of doing, and we're going to do it from above here too. Another way is if you have your worm bin, worm bins can be made of, a 33-gallon tub. You know, I've had a 55-gallon tub. I had one like that down there in the entry area of my house. And I had 7 pounds of worms in there, and I would feed them, you know, and so, but you need to also feed them the carbon, which is the paper, which I showed you, and the food, which is the green is the, that's the nitrogen. Okay. Now, if you were trying to just pull out all your worms, you put this is, I took a container and I put holes in here, and you stick it down in, you stick it down in here with some food in here. The worms are going to come in here and come in here, and you're going to collect your worms and leave any castings. That's if you were in a container, That's an easy way of doing it too. I hope that made sense. If not, I'll tell you later. I can update you a little bit more. This is just a neat process. So now what I'm going to do is show you the neat thing of why I like these bags, because it's almost like birthing a cow or milking a cow. This has a zipper compartment on the bottom. Yeah, there we go. And so what we're going to do is, I think that will do it. Let me move the light over here a little bit more there. Perfect. So this zipper, to me, I don't think this costs as much. My time's more valuable. But if you look in here, look at all the castings that are just already ready. There are no worms in here. Look at that. And it's just a little dry there, but I mean, that's good. I mean, that is so, so good. And so you're not going to have to worry about worms. You can have the worms working up there, and you can harvest all your good stuff down here. So I'm just going to break it up, but I know there's no worms here, and you just keep digging this out as much as you want. Oops, there is a worm down here. I saw one. What is he trying to do down there? He's trying to have a party. But there's a couple worms here. So we're now going to the next stage. And that once you harvest your castings, to get them ready to go now, put them out in your garden, is you need to sift it, because there are still stuff that is not eaten. Eggshells, I try to grind them up real fine, because that is also something that a worm needs to have, is that grip down in their throat. And then there's also some other things. So we're going to go over to this other table, and I'm going to show you how to sift your castings. I'm going to zip this back up because we won't have some escapees. There we go. Move this here. What we're going to do now is I have, this is how far behind I am in my castings. I'm over, this is all these containers down here. All these containers down here are basically castings. All of this here. Now, some of them have cocoons in them, and I'll show you what a cocoon looks like. So then what we're going to do is I have a little water. Ooh. Ooh, we got to do this fast. We got 5 more minutes. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the castings. I have 2 different sizes, an 8 and a 1/12. If I have worms, I use this guy, and I sift it, and I'll find in my worms. But if I don't have worms, then I can just go like this, put it here, and I can sift it like that. I even hold this pan and go like that. You could do this over a 5-gallon bucket. So then all of this, you break it up, all of this can go back into the bin. Okay. And then the next layer will have eggs if you have any eggs in there. Now, this is something I've harvested a long time ago. So they probably, I meant to show you some eggs, the cocoons, but there aren't any. But here is your fine castings. Isn't that gorgeous? Here. There we go. Yeah. So let's see. Now what we're gonna do, what do we do with castings? How do we do it? So I'm gonna take this nice fresh castings. They're gonna come right there. And believe it or not, I got a pumpkin in some of my runs of trying to gather leaves up, and they're starting to sprout. When I washed them and cleaned them and stuff, they started sprouting. So what I do is, say this is a container. This is your potting, your container that you're going to put your little plant in. Put a little bit of plant in it, and I would water it. Get it wet a little bit. And then again, what I said, these are low nutrition. I mean, not nutrition, but the NPK is so low in it that it's not going to harm. If you just, I could put the whole thing in there and it's not going to hurt it. But you just want to put maybe a tablespoon or a teaspoon of it in there. And then you want to put your plant in there. And I happen to have another one that is deciding to pop out. See, he's wiggling out. Look at that root. This is propagating on out. So we're going to stick that in here. Now he's got all of his nutritions right there in the worm castings. Worm castings are the best thing to do. There's so much on doing worm castings. It is so fun to do. The one thing is you want to think about worm castings is you want some kind of mental help, go there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our phases of the straw bales. So I think we're doing pretty good on time. Let me check my schedule to make sure I haven't missed anything.
Robbie, do you want to take some questions when you just finish your talking about the worm castings? We're in good time. It's It's not even 10:30.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my
You're
clock's.
you're moving right along there. So if you want to, people have questions and you want to go back and review anything, you have plenty of time.
Oh, super. Well, go ahead. What questions?
We have a question that what temperature can the worms tolerate? In other words, do you have to keep them heated up in the winter if you put it in a garage in the winter? Uda,
Yeah.
I think that's your question, right?
Well, I'm glad. I think I know what she's talking about because I used to keep my worms outside until I think it was like 6 years ago. We had really a hot summer. And when you have things outside, you get more things having to join the worms in the worm bins. Like you have soldier flies. Well, they're not bad. The soldier flies aren't bad. The larva from the soldier fly, they'll eat and they'll compost too. But yes, worms do not like to have a lot of heat. They normally like about 40 to 80 degrees. Anything over 80 degrees is really hot for them. That's why when I told you I had a whole bunch of worms in that, I went ahead and just put them all in there into our house. Now I had a lot of black soldier flies harvest, but that's okay. They're not the nasty type of flies, so I'll tell more about that later. But they don't like the heat too hot, and they will freeze outside. Now if they are in your containers, but like the worms out in the outside, they're going to be down on the ground, so they'll go where they need to go to get more warmth and stuff. But yeah, I would say I would keep it between 80 and 40. Some people do their worm castings in their basement. Some people do them in their laundry room. So is there another question?
What is the name of the bag, the worm composting bag? I can put that in the
They're vermi bags.
vermi bags.
Yeah.
Because there's another name for this is vermiculture, right?
No, there are two different kinds out there. There's an urban bag, and then there's a vermi bag. Vermi bag is his actual company. It's
Okay.
Tom. And he hand makes these one by one. And
can you but the whole study of worm casting is also called vermiculture, isn't that right?
vermi castings, yeah.
Vermi castings.
Yeah.
So vermi is another name for worm. So it's called a vermi bag.
Yeah, that's a vermi bag. And they come in all different sizes, so they even come in tote size.
And you can use, but you can use the others.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, in fact, now that we've got a little bit more time, let me when I went through everything, I was just really afraid I'd run out of time. So
you're fine. Okay,
what this is this is my very first one. There's no holes in the bottom or anything like that. So that's going to keep your leach, the juice. If you over nitrogen your worms, like more vegetables and fruits that have liquid to it, that water is going to come down in the bottom because there's holes in the bottom of this. Okay. So when you start your bin, say if I wanted to start this bin, there it's go. If I wanted to start the bin, I would put my bedding that I make. And when I first did it, I just put shredded paper in it. But I really have found out that making your own bedding, which is any of these guys, I mean, I do the azomite, the peat moss, the eggshells, and all the carbon, all these guys, I put those all together to make it. And I put a whole bunch of water and you just keep making. In fact, here is I do not put any food in this because this is going to store this. You're going to have it storing for a good, you can keep this as long as it's not too wet. See, it's got just a little bit of dripping. It will stay this really nice without spoiling or growing anything for a good couple weeks or so. I'll go through one of those here, like a week or so. But then I will just, so you can easily put, where's my pink bucket? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. I would do this. I would just take your mixture And this, I mean, I've done, there is nothing really a wrong way of doing things, but put your bedding down in there. And why it's dark is the peat moss. Okay, so then, there we go. And then I could put the worms on one corner and the food on the other corner and then finish covering it up. And I want to do this. This is one I'm hoping I'll find.
Yeah,
Is
we
there-
have one question that says, how many layers of paper bedding food do you put in your bin to get it started? But you just showed that. It's just like a,
I would say about an inch, yeah, of some kind of a paper, just about an inch. Yeah. And then I want to see if I can find a cocoon for you. Here's worms. Is there another question while I've searched for a cocoon?
how do you get the worms? Where do you get the worms? And how long does it take to get your worm colony fully established so that you're harvesting a good amount of casting? So the first one is, where do you get your worms initially?
You can, I sell worms, so you can get them from me. And as to how to establish, it takes, depending on how many worms you have. So there's a little baby worm right there. He's probably about 3 days old. It depends on how much you feed it and how many worms you have to feed it. Worms will eat half their weight. So say you have a pound of worms and you feed them a half a pound today, find out how long that half a pound lasts with them. And then that tells you how often you have to feed them. And for this kitty litter size, I waited till it got up to about the top part of the second bin. Let me show you down in here. I waited till it got up to about right there. And then I took the whole thing out. And then that's when you do the old fashioned way. I dumped it all in here. Oh, I'm so glad we looked. We had an escapee. Then I put them all here, and then I would put that little trap to trap my worms so I can have my castings. I know this is a lot of jumbling around, but I would say that would take close to a kitty litter. I think took me about 2 months. But I mean, you can do it in smaller phases too. I mean, you can do it in there's another. I've got them all over me. Don't name your worms. You'd be here forever. But like this, I mean, you figure I put that bin in, I put that whole thing in that one. That was 1 week's time frame. They ate all that food. In fact, they really ate it like 2 or 3 days ago. But I didn't want to feed it because I knew I was feeding it today. They will also too, don't fret if you don't feed them right away on time or whatever, they eat their own poop. But you don't want that happening because that can also cause your bin to be anaerobic and where it starts to smell. If it starts to smell, then you've got too much liquid in it and it's not really good. Do you have another question?
Does anybody have a question? Feel free to unmute and ask your question. Okay. And if people have questions afterwards who want to start, they can reach out to you.
Yes, I'm sorry, Suzanne, I didn't give my number. My number is 423-240-4075.
Wait a minute. Okay, 423.
240-4075.
4075.
And I do have a message machine, so I don't answer my calls if I don't recognize who's calling me. So do leave a message. Oh, and I'm also on Facebook, Gospel Urban Farmer.
Yeah, I'll
And you
put
can
that in
message
there.
me.
Yeah. Somebody, oh, is it isomite or azomite that you put in your
It's azomite.
oh, there it is. Okay, azomite. Okay.
I bought it in like a 40-pound bag of it, so I took it down. I apologize. I meant to get a cocoon out. And a cocoon is their eggs. Also, too, let's do a biology of worms. If you can see, there is a little ring right there on the worm. That means it's a mature worm, and it's going to be ready. They can lay their own eggs, or they can also mate. They go through that little thing to mate. Their little band. I can't remember what the band is, but found one. Trying to find a worm. This one I harvested a lot out the other day, or about a couple weeks ago, and I think I got all my cocoons. But is there another question? There's some baby worms. When you see baby worms, you know that it's doing good. Your bin's doing good.
What kind of worms are these? They're not just. Are they the kind you can't just go out into your garden and find some worms and. Could you do that?
All worms they compost, but the best ones are the red wigglers. They're the best ones to do that. I might have done all mine. I'm just keep trying to find an egg for you guys, a cocoon, because it's really. Yeah, most of this is just castings. I need to sift.
And then the proportion of ingredients in your bedding mix.
I personally would do like 75% carbon and a fourth nitrogen. So that would be, make sure that you have a lot of paper. And spending too much time on this. The cocoons are so cute. I wish I could find one for you. But I would definitely more carbon. But I have not really. I don't sit down there and say, okay, I got this much carbon and I've got this much nitrogen, and I put it all together. Like this much greens and this much, like my burrito, in my bedding, in that bedding mix, that the whole bunch, I probably put a half a bag of shredded paper in there. And I probably put that much depth of peat moss. So those are both carbon. In fact, the whole thing is carbon in there because that's carbon. So if you figured out how much of that bedding I put in, and then consider how much of that food I put in, and then I put the bedding back on top of it. So it's like two-thirds carbon and 1/3 nitrogen would be a good round. So is there another question?
I've just put the Facebook page up.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Oh, you found one. Good.
I found a cocoon. Found a couple of them right there. It's on my way. Oh, they're right there in the. Here, let me set this down so it's not moving around. Right in the front of my fingertip. I don't know if it's gonna see how tiny that is.
I want to pull back a tad. It's a little unfocused.
Okay.
There you go. We can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a cocoon, and a cocoon will have at least 3 to 4 worms coming out of them. And it's you have to be very careful. They're real small. I mean, they are such a fraction of the worms. And I've got videos of actually when I saw one start being born. It's really cool. So, yeah.
We have someone who started a worm bin about 2 months ago, and hasn't had any leachate. So, Jessica, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah.
Unmute.
Yeah, sure. Hi,
Okay,
thanks. Yeah, I started the bin about 2 months ago and have been adding food and spraying it down a bit, but I'm wondering if it's too dry because there's no liquid that's, seeped through.
Personally, that is great that there is none. I personally would rather not see leaching than to have leaching, because you can make your own by when you separate your castings and you have your castings ready to go, like this stuff. You can put these in like a tea bag type thing and put them in water and make your own tea type thing. That's what the leaching is all about. When you have leaching, to me, sometimes it's more of you're going to have, it's going to get close to the anaerobic. So it's going to start smelling and stuff. So when I start to see something drop, if I first fed them with a lot of liquid, like I have my stuff is half frozen still. And that's why I put, jumping the gun, I put bedding, frozen bedding, so worms aren't touching the frozen food yet. I let it. But with all that moisture from the frozen food, when it gets down into the bin, it might go down there. If I see it just at the time that I'm feeding, I'm not worried. But if I constantly see liquid, and I always, in these bins down here, the first ones I did, if I saw those, it down in the bottom, I knew I had a lot more liquid in there and I needed to back off and put more carbon in. So you're doing great. If you don't have that leaching, that's fine. Now, if you pick it up and it's like really, really dry, like it's blowing type dry. I mean, there's, let me show you this. If this is like, say it's, if it's like real dry like that, now this is still good, but this, I've dried it out. But this is castings that have dried out for a long time. And there's a cocoon there too. Dang, now I'm seeing them all the time. But I would say you're doing great. You're doing great. Now, if you're starting to see dead worms and you're not having the moisture in there, then it is not moist enough. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
How often do worms reproduce?
Whenever they like to.
Okay, so their decision.
I tell you, it also has to deal with environment. If they are happy and they're being fed, you are going to have, you can tell like this bin here. This bin here is, let me move this right here. They're happy. Even to me, though, this is really wet. To me, this is really, really wet. But they're happy because here's another baby worm. Now these worms, these baby worms, well, there's another egg right there on my finger. And so these worms here are like maybe a week old. And if there's baby worms, you've got a healthy environment. And so I wouldn't worry about it. Sometimes they do like a little moisture. Like this is, I might think it might be too wet, but they're doing really good and I wouldn't disturb them. As you notice, I am moving them around. Some people say, oh, don't disturb them, but I do because I want to see what's going on. Now, what's really weird is I found these worms in this bin, and this is a little bit damper bin than the other one. These worms are fatter. See how fat they are. And the ones over in the other bin, here's a real fat one. The other bin is, they're skinny. So I don't know. I noticed too, when I always kept them in those pins there, they were fatter worms. And I think it's more, there was always more moisture in there. So, and I don't have I have a bin. I mean, this has a thing and its valve is open. And I didn't show you the bottom part. This has a ladder. And I also keep paper down there to make sure it soaks up just to see about any kind of leaking. But worm's been down in here because here's an egg. Right there. There's a bigger worm. That's a cocoon. Is that good? See how tiny that is? Yeah. So, yeah, that's a ladder so the worms can come back up into their nesting area. And this is meant to have several layers, but I find that this gets really moist, a lot moist. So how are you doing?
Okay, we're doing good. And the only other one is somebody says their manure pile is full of red wigglers.
Yeah, you'll find them out there and stuff. If you want to know for sure that you have red wigglers, you need to purchase them. If you don't care, I mean, that there are there's thousands of different kinds of worms, and now my joke with my friends, when I tell them I raised red wigglers, the first thing out of a guy's voice to me is like, "Oh, good, I'm going to go fishing next week." I was like, no, these are not my fishing worms. They can use them. But not mine.
The only other question is the ratio of peat moss and azimuth.
Oh, azimite, I would just use maybe a quarter cup
Azimite.
in this big size here. And I fill this up. I did half of this. By the way, apologize. I hear a train coming. This size here, this amount here, I used a quarter cup. You might want to go zoom on in. No, come on back into it. Zoom into it. Yeah, I used about a quarter cup of azimite, and maybe even more. It's not going to hurt it because this is their grit. I might even use a half a cup. So yeah.
Is it filled?
Oh no, it was not filled. I only took out a little bit of here, so right where this line is, maybe half of that. So yeah, and you can find azimite on Amazon, and everything else you can find in your kitchen or your bathroom. My husband keeps all the toilet paper rolls. He has his box, and it's like they're all stacked. And you just cut up your paper towel rolls, and your paper. I have a box where when you wipe our hands, if it doesn't have anything greasy or anything like that on it, they go into this little container in my
And
bathroom.
you get the peat moss at the garden store, or?
Yeah, like I get my peat moss at Urban Horticulture. That's over off of Amacola Highway. And then in fact today they have a seed swap this afternoon. Let's see. And
Urban
then
Horticulture on Amnicola.
yeah, and you really can get peat moss anywhere. One thing you want to do,
Right.
you can either use coconut coil or peat moss. You're going to have a chance to getting the fly, what are they called? The fungus gnats more so with your peat moss. And peat moss, I would always either cook them in the microwave or pour boiling water over it. This set, so I put hot water in it, boiling water in it last night. So by the time I needed it today, the water was pumped down to normal. So, but with coconut coil, I've heard that there is no fungus gnats or flies or whatever those little guys are that we all hate as gardeners. And you can see I don't have that many here. So, any other questions?
I just put the website for Urban Horticulture Supply in the chat. So
Oh,
I think
super.
we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, are we about ready to maybe move outside? Okay. We're going to take
Okay.
some of these, and I'm going to show you how to do strawberry gardening. And I am going to take some of my castings and show you what I do. Now I have, I'm planting some stuff in a straw bale out there. That's a good idea. I'm gonna take water. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm going to cover my bin up. I always make sure that this is covered because I don't want the worms to go down. They do not like light. They do not like light. So you want to make sure this is always covered so that they'll go down here and stuff. So, all right. Okay, we're going to go outside and excuse my back. I think it's easier to just walk forward. Tripping. So. Okay.
We have some freezing. There we are. Good. We're there.
All right. Perfect. Can you see me?
Yep.
Can you see me? Can you hear me good?
Yes. Yes. We're good. Well,
Good.
yes, you're freezing up a little bit, but we're good.
Straw gardening. Straw bale gardening is great. I love it. I was introduced to it many years ago, and I thought, gosh, it's great. Because in Albuquerque, you have all that dry dirt. You had to keep amending it, and you had rocks. You had all this other stuff, and it's like, and we lived in New Mexico, so you had nuclear way down in the south of New Mexico. And you had this stuff. So I thought, gosh, if we had just had that, my grandfather, he's the one who taught me how to garden. And so when I saw that you could take a straw bale and condition it and grow something in it, I thought, well, I can do that. That's really cool. So I ended up watching a webinar, and I bought 12 straw bales. Now, my husband has zoysia grass, and I had to find a place to put that. And he said, no, you may not put it on my grass. So I said, oh, where do I go? So that's the neat thing, is you can put it on concrete. I put my first bale on concrete, which is over by our house. This is our shop. My husband was born and raised in this house, basically. And so I put all my straw bales on concrete, and I put trellises, and I weighed all my trellises down with kitty litter boxes filled with water and stuff. And I grew 9 feet tall okra, and I had tomatoes, peppers, you name it, everything growing out of it. So what it did so well, he says, that's great. So I just been doing it every year. So why do we do straw bales? One is there's several reasons I do it. Main reason I do straw bale gardening, and I keep saying straw bale, not hay bale. Hay has the seeds in them, and you're going to have grass coming up out of it and everything like that. See this bale here, the only reason it's got a little bit of grass, this is, if you were at the spring festival or the fall festival for the master gardeners, this is that bale. I pulled, it had okra in it, and tomatoes. Now this is close to a lawnmower. That might be the why we have grass in it. But as you can see, there's no weeds in it. It is awesome. So this is a bale that is now over a year, because I conditioned it. I was already growing in it before the spring festival last year. So how
Robbie, hold on a sec. We have
What's
some freezing on the video. You're sort of stuck.
Oh shoot.
You're talking is
wonder if
fine, but the video isn't going there.
So do I need to just move slowly?
Yes, I think that's it. I think
I was gonna see if I can. Let me
I'm
change
not-
it to another Wi-Fi.
yeah, let's try another. It looked to me like the Wi-Fi was weak.
Yeah, let me what if I just take it on to 5G?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Return, there we go. Okay. Does that sound better? Well, we'll move around and I'll see if it does.
We are getting a picture yet.
Oh, you're not?
Nope. There we are.
Okay. So
But it's
How-
not
how-
moving yet. Let's see. We just need to get you moving.
are my hands moving?
No, your voice is okay, but there you go. Now, but it's a little just like, it's not videoing. It's just like it's just like an image after another.
Okay.
It worked okay yesterday. I'm not sure what the problem is, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I could put it on our extender that's in here instead, the Wi-Fi. Let me just do that real quick. Sorry for the.
It's okay. Yeah, we're good. While you're doing that, where do you buy your straw bale?
Oh, Daisy Speed and Seed. They are the best.
Feed
you
and
go.
seed?
Yeah, Daisy Feed and Seed. They're up on Dayton Boulevard in Saudi Daisy. Okay. There. Okay, I'm on my extender now, so let me see if that. Are you getting my picture now?
We're getting a picture, but we're not getting motion.
Okay. You know, I can easily move this all over to the walnut garden, and then I will have our stronger Wi-Fi. So, you still not getting me?
Hang on. You're there, you're just not moving.
Okay, that means I'm frozen. Ooh, I'm not cold.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't need this. I don't need my gloves anymore. By the way, if you noticed, I wore gloves when I worked with my worms. It is poop. Some people don't, but I somewhat like it. So, yeah, you know what? It's not saying I have Wi-Fi.
Okay.
It's strange. So let me just turn it off and try to do the 5G again. Okay. Okay. You know, please turn it off on computer.
We will continue momentarily.
Yeah. Are you seeing me at all?
No, you're off.
Completely
There you
off?
go. Now you're off. Yeah, this is better, I think.
Yeah. Are you seeing me wave?
Yes.
Cool, then. That's good.
Everybody good with this? Okay, let's go.
I'm going to put my sweater on. It's a little nippy out here. Straw bales. Can I go ahead and start? Is it good?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Oh, good. Straw bale. You have to condition a bale because there's no nutrition inside of a bale. It's nothing. It's just a straw, and straw has a hole in it, and that's why it's really cool when you get water in it. It's going to heat. You know, it's going to have water in it. So, what do you do with the straw bale? Well, you have to nitrogen. You have to get the bacteria and the fungus and all that start moving around. And the best thing to do that is to give it nitrogen. So I don't have my nitrogen bag. I'm picking some up today. Nitrogen, and I buy the 3400, or sometimes it comes 3500, but it has they're little pellets. And it's pure nitrogen. And I buy this. I can buy it from Amazon, but I also now get it at Urban Horticulture. But when you put nitrogen on, there's a formula to do it. Basically, you put there's a formula here, like I have. And so if you're interested in, I can screenshot it. But I'll tell you, it's real simple, real simple. Basically, you take a half a cup. I only have a fourth of a cup, so we're improvising. So I'm doing a fourth of a cup, but it needs a half a cup. So 2 of these, and you just sprinkle it over the top, the nitrogen on the first day. Now I've been conditioning this now for about 7 days. So I'm going to and then I just, so that gave me a half a cup of nitrogen that first day. And you soak it in the first day. Second day, you just soak it in. You don't put any more nitrogen in it. The third day, you put a half a cup and soak it. The fourth day, you just soak it. You just water your bale. Fifth day, you put a half a cup. Sixth day, and you water it. You just have to water it that time. You don't have to soak it. And the sixth day, then you just basically water it in, just watering it. You're trying to keep the bale nice and moist. The seventh day, that's when you start to change, and you go to a half a cup down to a fourth of a cup of nitrogen. And you do that on day 7, 8, and 9. each of those days you still water it because you got to dissolve it in there. So you're not going to plant in it. Now, the thing is, though, as your nitrogen, your bale, it's going to start heating up because that nitrogen is getting the bacteria and the fungus and just churning everything up. So it really heats up. Your bale can get up to 140 degrees, and that's going to be too hot for you to plant in it. Now, starting bales this time of year in March, it is, I mean, it's okay. Your bale's not going to get hot.
Can you show the bale? I'm getting you, but not the bale. There we go.
Yeah. You could do like here.
Sorry, I'm just doing a
No,
little
no.
directing here.
Is
Oh,
that
that's good. Yeah, that's great. And a little
Okay.
closer, maybe, you know, closer to the bale.
There we go. Okay. Is that
Perfect.
good?
Yeah, good, everybody? Good. Okay, yep, go.
Tilt it down. There, or back up to some 80. There we go. Okay, this bale's been going for about 7 days. So from this point on, I'll do the the 1/4 of a cup on day 7, 8, 9. And then on day 10, for all of you guys that are my age, you use 10, 10, 10, Ren 10, 10, which is your basic fertilizer. Now, as I say, this is your basic fertilizer. And I do have my bag for this, but it's an all-purpose fertilizer. It's like what you use anywhere, okay? Now this is on the sheet that I showed you. There is 2 lines. There is a traditional and organic. You could do this organically, but it will be very expensive because to do 1 bale, you use blood meal to do it organically, and which is okay. I mean, I did that. In fact, my first bales, I did blood meal. It takes 3 cups of blood meal every time you fertilize it. So on day 1 is 3 cups, day 3 is 3 cups, day 5 is 3 cups. So you're up to what, 9 cups? And then day 7, you're going to have on day 7, it's 1.5 cups. So 3 times 1.5 cups is 3, 4.5 plus that. We're talking 7.5 cups, 6.5 cups, plus count. But say 8 cups of blood meal. And so this is basically, this probably will do 1 bale, one bag. Now, Joel, who is the one who I forgot my book. It's on the counter. Joel, who taught me how to do straw bale gardening, and how I got certified is you had to send him pictures of what you did and how you grew and stuff. And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see all the different gardens I have. And Susanna was great in picking some pretty ones for the advertising, which was great. And so they, I lost my train of thought. The blood meal is organic and really it's good, but it'll just cost you a lot of money. Joel also has what's called a booster, a bale buster type thing, where he sells this 1 bag for each bale when you buy one. And I've not tried it yet, but I mean, knowing Joel, he has a degree. If you get his book, Straw Bale Gardening, and I have some copies, but if you get his book and go through it, he has so much chemical and type education and degrees in all that stuff that it's way over my head. I just say, that sounds good to me. But once you start fertilizing this all, then it'll start, you'll start to see you'll start to see mushrooms coming up. Don't panic. Don't eat them, but don't panic. Those mushrooms are your good sign that everything inside that bale is churning. Now, with this temperature again in March, it's a little cold. Now we've had some heat. I should have started the bales way back when we had that wonderful week of real hot weather, like 75 degrees. That would have been great. I bet I could have gotten this bale up to about 80 degrees. It's only 60 degrees right now in the bale. I always keep a thermometer in my bales just so I can keep an idea of what it is. And so when the temperature, when it's all done with the temperature rising, I still would wait till the bale shows you the signs of your mushrooms, or that the temperature is up to at least 90 degrees, because that means everything's working in it before you put plants in it. Now, say if we were in the middle of summer, or say June or whatever stuff, and it's up to 130 degrees, you want to wait till that temperature gets down to actually put plants into it. I would wait till about, it's like 85 degrees. And then all you have to do is, I'm going to demonstrate on that bale. If anyone's ever seen a kohlrabi, this is a kohlrabi. This is where you're going to have your little fruit of a kohlrabi. I didn't know about those until I was a master gardener. And in my master gardener class, I can't remember her name, but she brought kohlrabi seeds to our class and shared them with us. I still have a few more. And it was just so wonderful for her to share what she had abundance of. So thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out. You just break this all around. And leave my tag here. I'm going to get my worm castings. You can use garden tone. Are you seeing? Yes, you're good. Yes. Can you guys see me? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah.
What I'm going to do is, in fact, you can, don't put me in, just come on over and just show right here. Tilt it. There. Is that good? Can you see the bale?
Yes. Yeah, we good? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yep.
Okay, I don't have the other camera, so I can't. So I'm going to open up. Whoops, it's falling off the. I have this guy on a cart. He's my. There we go. The wind blew it. Yeah. By the way, where you choose your place, your bales, choose it before you start conditioning it. Once you start conditioning it, that bale is going to weigh a lot. And I didn't do that the first time I did it. I accidentally started it when I realized it was too shady. So I ended up putting it, having to carry all those bales one by one with a dolly over to a sunnier place, which was on the driveway. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to put my castings. Oh, there they are. Okay. You're going to open this up like that. By the way, I want to show you, this is a year's worth of composting. See how it's broken down? And see all that dark stuff? Yeah, and it will keep on coasting. This bale, that's why I like these bales, because they will last a long time. So I'm going to open this up, and it's going to be harder on those new bales, but I'm going to put my worm castings all the way around it. Remember, I don't have to worry about how much I put on my worm castings. Then I'm going to break this up a little bit. Now I'm going to roll this into the greenhouse when we're done tonight, because they've been in the greenhouse. I'll show you why. I don't want them out in the cold yet, or the deck. And then you just put it in there. That's it. And then that one is going to grow. That's the only potting soil. Now, say if I wanted to just put seeds in. I didn't bring a seed, but all you have to do is for a seed, you just have to open it up and put a seed right there. Or you can put some potting soil on top and then put a seed in it. And that it will grow from there. One neat thing too with straw bales is you have 5 sides. You can grow anywhere around this bale. I can put a pumpkin seed here and let it grow out this way. I can put a rosemary, sage here. I can put nasturtiums right here. Now, why this bale is the way it is because it had, if you were at the spring and fall festival, it had okra. So it had that big, huge stalk out there. It had tomatoes. It had 2 different kinds of peppers in it. It had nasturtiums on one end. Go on the Facebook page. You'll see what this bale looked like last fall and spring. It was really good. And so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to crack this open. You know, I think, I don't want to do it.
Robbie, is the name of the person who you Joel Karsten?
Carl, yeah, let me go grab the book real quick. I left it on the
'Cause I'm
counter.
gonna put the book at his website on the Facebook page.
Oh, good, yes. Did you find the book?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, he has like 3 different books, and one talks about a little bit more in depth about with gardening aspects, and then one is more, I have the one that says complete. So here I am, I'm going to put this one down here, and I have, now, as you notice, one of the things I haven't told you about how to lay your straw bales. Okay, I'm going to put that in there and just let that go there. And you don't have to have that much soil around that plant. I could, if it was a plant that all the soil was loose, you stick it down in there and it will be fine. It doesn't need to have soil to grow into the straw bales, because basically you're conditioning this bale. You're making compost with this. So it's good. I'm going to do that. This is my Robbie and my kale. Okay. See, like I could put this wax, what is called freaking, can't even say it. I can stick it there and let it grow out. So, and here's a this is a cabbage. You know, I could stick my cabbage right here. I've just put the last little bit of a straw bale worm castings in there and stick that in there and keep an eye on that. I'm going to use this. I don't think this is going to make the expo when I come to the expo, because this will probably not make it unless I tighten it up. But as you notice, my strings, it's going to be opposite what Joel talks about. My strings are, oops, let's do this. My strings are going this way around the bale, where he suggests doing the, here, actually my strings are right here. He suggests the strings going around, which I understand why. But if you take this bale and you set it up, my top surface is smaller than the side. I'm willing to put it on its side and put a string around here. And I haven't done it to this one yet. Put around here to hold it in. But I want more surface. Now, the other thing is too, when you do your bale, you want to look at each side of it. And I have a hard time doing this. One area I really have a hard time on noticing what bale side is cut and what side bale is bent. And I noticed this one too late. I had already watered it and I was not going to move it. But this is on it. This is on its side, but it's still, you see all the straws are still going. This is bent this way. So I bet the bottom is where they cut it. So you're going to have all those straws with the holes in them that the water is going to come in and the nitrogen and whatever. And so it might condition faster that way. If you buy your bales from Daisy Seed and Speed, do be aware you might have to extend your conditioning a little bit, because these guys are really, really tight. That's one from his now it's in a bucket only because I travel with it. So what's our time frame, Suzanne?
It's 11:15.
Oh gosh, we got plenty of time. Okay. Oh, carburetor bees are here. Yep. Let's go. Well, first off, ask any questions for right now in doing the straw bale.
Okay. How many years does a bale last?
Okay, that's a good question. It depends on where you buy your straw bales. I have had bales that have only lasted where I've started them in like June, and they've only lasted till like October or November. And when you buy your bale, see how tight it is. If you notice this one, it is, I mean, it's been conditioned for about 7 days, but to me, it's really, really tight. Over where we're going to end up in the walnut garden, I'm going to show you the 2 different styles because they came from 2 different places and stuff. But I believe well, you figured that one, and that's another thing. It's in a container, so that helps hold it together too. And I'm on this, I started it last year, so I'm going to get another year out of it. So you can get from I'd say 8 months to all the way to 2 years. But that's if you want to treat it like a bale. When we go over to the walnut garden, I'm going to show you what to do with it, that it still has life after it's done with the bale.
Okay. Did you put it in the container for a reason, or did you just, it was just,
Yeah, this is in a container so I can take it and put it in my car and travel it to like expos or the fall festivals or something like that. Yeah, so it's in compact. But if someone wanted to do it on their backyard or on their deck and they just want one bale, this is perfect if they wanted to do it. I have though put holes in this so water comes out. I did, if you go back to that picture I had of this, I also had a tomato plant growing out and I had a tomato cage standing in it. Now, of course, it can't go all the way past the plastic, but I could chop the bottoms off, legs of the basket, the tomato basket, and wire cage, I should say, and I put it down on it, and then I fastened it down in there. I took like the staples, you know, those big long garden staples with the staple things in, and I stapled the container, the cage thing. What am I talking about? Tomato cage, yeah. Down in, yeah. Sorry.
and on day 10, how much 10 do you 10 do you use?
The rented tin, it's been a while since I've done this. A cup, 1 cup,
Okay.
and you, per bale, yeah. And you water that one in, and then you wait take your temperature, then wait about 3 days and take your temperature again. That allows the 10 to soak in there too.
Do you use an oven thermometer to take its temperature?
Pardon?
Do you have what do you use, like a meat thermometer?
This is a garden thermometer, but yeah, my first one is Mike's meat thermometer. I still have it. It's in another. I'm going to take this over when we go to the walnut garden and show you there too. But yeah, it's just a simple little thermometer, and it shows how hot things are. So, yeah. When you place your bales, besides like wherever you place them, this is south for us, and that's north. So you really should have your bales going this way, lengthwise. So when the sun comes up, it's going to come up and over. So it's going to get all the sides. Now you'll notice when I go to the walnut garden, it's not that way. Part of it is, but part of it isn't. And that I've rearranged my walnut garden a couple times, but it's just the way how things fell and stuff. So, and there's a history behind the walnut garden. So, and when I get over there, I'll tell you about it.
Okay, someone has bales as a barrier to prevent erosion, and would that heavy nitrogen leach out and get into the ground?
Yeah, if you use nitrogen, it gets into the ground, but I don't see why, unless you're that's a chemical question that I just logically, yeah, I would think it would leach out into there, but I personally wouldn't have any problems with that because it's where you're going to leach down into it. Wherever my bales are, the nitrogen is going to go down into the ground. And that's the history on the walnut garden. The walnut garden, we had a walnut tree where you couldn't grow anything underneath it. And so it was dying. So we took it down, and I talked my husband into letting me do a garden there on his zoysia, part of his zoysia and part of it where the walnut tree was. So all the nitrogen that went under through the bale and all the conditioning of the whole year, seasons and stuff, that went down into the garden, down into the ground, and it nourished that ground. So I don't see a problem with that unless it was running into water that birds were eating and drinking out of or something like that. I mean, that might be an issue personally. Any other questions right now?
We're good.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and walk over to the walnut garden and actually show you what we've done. So I'm going to stop here for a moment. I'm going to stop here. These boxes here, they have the irises in them. My first bales that I did back in 2017, whenever it was, they filled these up. When they were spent, where I need to move them off the driveway and stuff, I wheelbarrowed them, put them in here, and then I put my irises. Now, irises are perennials, so they come all the time. They'll keep coming back up. But these, I don't think I put anything else in here, but see how this is all several years worth of straw bales just finally decomposed, and then leaves. I haven't added any soil to any of this. And here you can see back in here is some, when it dried out, you can tell it's still straw there. But if it got wet and I put maybe some 10 on it, it would start to break down a little bit. But see, I have my irises and stuff here. And so that's what you do with your leftover. It's got a second life. I call it the second life of straw bales. So we're going to go ahead and go over here. Now, I grant you, when we have a train that comes, it's going to be blaring. So our train track is like right there. So, but I love it over here. It's just beautiful. And but as Pan, this is all, it's got a little mixture of stuff in it, but this is all zoysia over our yard. And then Debbie's going to go ahead and go at the beginning of this walnut garden here. This is called the walnut garden, and it's like 6 years into it. It's converted. It's done different things. Our walnut tree used to be right where the daffodils are, and we have lots of garlic that comes out there. Our goal is to extend this out to the left towards the house to make sure that it has, I can maybe put some more straw bales there, but we keep having garlic. It's been there for 60 years, so might as well just leave it and we might just let, mulch it and do it. But this is my walnut garden. I was blessed by a gentleman, Craig, that came in and he boxed in my straw bales. All this, believe it or not, this is straw. All of this here in these bales right here, all the way up down here, underneath these bales and all the way down in here are last year's straw bales. And I could have just left them there with their strings in them and grown in them, but I decided to tear it down and go ahead and put seeds in them. And I had 4 bales, 2 from last year's stuff that I hadn't used. And then I just happened to, blessed by a assisted living close by us that John Calvin had these straw bales in front of their building that they were getting rid of it and Halloween time. And so I grabbed them, and they're not by these 2 here. These 2 bales are from JCC Feed. And this is how, and I've conditioned this. You can tell how tight they are. They're really, really tight. And this is really, really tight. Now this one's going to be a little loose. See how loose this is? And then see how loose this is. This is a little bit tighter there. But they have been conditioned about 4 days, 5 days. So when we were trying to get the garlic out, I went and last fall transferred them into this straw bales. And this is last year's straw bales. And as you can see how much this is all there is. There's no potting soil. There is just straw that is decomposing. Now, this spring, I did put down some 10-10-10 all the way down just to give it some fertilizer, just like what we do with a pot or a raised bed. Now, these straw bales are now in a raised bed. I could have put more straw bales on top of all that, but I wanted to go ahead and show you guys how neat it is to, if you bought a straw bale, the straw bale is about $7, and I have it underneath here is last year's straw. $7, that's just $28 a straw. How many bags of potting soil would it take to fill it up to at least right here. Now I'm going to be able to grow out of the sides of here. I'm going to be able to grow out of here. And I'm also going to be able to grow out of the back here. And I will probably put, now last year I had my long green beans over here, and they grew up and over my trellis here enough that they stifled my tomato plants. So that's another thing when you have straw bales and you have your trellises. Now this is one form of trellis, and I have another one over there that we might take a pop look at later. And well, they're in the book. It's also two in the book. But this is the inside of one of my greenhouses that broke down. Excuse me. And so I put this. This is a wire. It's not cattle panel. I love cattle panel, but we just had to do this really quick a couple of years ago. So we bought this roll of this fencing, cattle fencing, I guess is what it's called. And it is great because now I have an arboreum. So I had all these long green beans coming down here. It was just awesome. So when these, as you can see, these guys did not make that 17-degree weather. The kale's doing pretty good, and my Swiss chard is coming back. I'm not sure if my cabbage is going to do anything, and I lost a couple of my kohlrabis. This one might come back, but I covered them, but not enough, and I was just trying it out. It was an experiment. That's what we are as gardeners. It's an experiment. But so I had friends come over the other day and help me see things. So we have put down, instead of putting a bale on here, I put radishes. And on some of them, I've got beets and spinach. But again, I mean, this is after one season. I'm going to do it here where there's no seeds. But see how much now. It's going to keep on decomposing. Now that stuff that's under here is going to decompose. So my husband, when I first did this straw bale, I had a row of straw bales this way, which is not what you're supposed to have. You really should have them this way. But it's the only way I could do it. And then I had straw bales lined up 5 different rows this way. And I had 4 different squash and with 23 bales. And we had so much squash that year. It was beautiful. Pretty much anything can grow out of these straw bales. If you plan to turn them into a raised bed, then you could start growing something that is perennial in it. But otherwise, pretty much anything can grow in straw bales. I mean, some people have great success with potatoes. I don't. And if I'm going to have Debbie pan over to the front of the house, you just turn, that's fine. If you look right over there, Debbie, angle it this way. There we go. Can you see the front of the house? And that has, do I have you guys? Suzanne? Suzanne?
I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah, you're good. You're okay.
No, I'm talking at the front of the house. Does she need to turn it to a little bit more to the right?
She needs to walk a little closer, I think. We can see it, but it's hard to tell what it is.
Okay. This
There we
is
go.
These are straw bales, the same time, this is how much they are, same ones that you saw over the walnut garden. That's what these look like until I took the string out and I flattened them. Now I don't have to do that, and I'm not going to do it to this one. Now it does have grass in here only because we have grass that gets mowed and it somewhat goes over here. But this, I have okra. These are okra. These could have been the sunflower. I had okra and sunflowers, big, huge sunflowers. And you have to stake them up so that they will stay. But we're going to clean this all out by all we're going to do is you could either cut all these straws like here, but if you pull them, you're going to pull a lot of your straw out. So I would just take scissors and trim them all that back and then grow something in them. And then this is a year old already. So it's going to have another year this fall. And then I'm going to turn it into a raised bed for next year. I'll take it and maybe add it to over there. So your straw bales, to answer that question a long time ago, can last up to 3 years And if you use it like I did over the front of the other house, they could be there for 8 years as you're bedding. So, but it's, I love it. I really do love it. You can just do anything in it. Are there any questions?
Let's see. Somebody's going to, yeah, I think you've inspired some, oh, deer. Do you have deer?
We do have deer that gets behind our big house that's on Hamel Road back there. And I've seen them in our yard a couple times, but I haven't seen them eat anything. What I have seen is one year, I had planted a whole bunch of stuff and I had chickmunks that decided to move the seeds around. So one of the things you can do to prevent stuff like that is do seed taping. Seed taping is taking toilet paper, separating it, making a mixture of powder, flour and water, and putting little dots. And then you put your seed in it, and you take the other layer of the toilet paper back down and let it dry and roll it up. And then you lay it down on the straw bale, and then you can put some potting soil on top of that. And that would deter like the guys that love to eat your seeds and stuff. But I have not really I have rabbits all around and that jump around and stuff, but I have had some of my watermelons eaten. But we have that in all of our gardens. Don't we, Debbie? Debbie has deer in her yard. So,
True. All
another,
right. Does anybody want to unmute and ask a question about straw bales or anything?
there's a busy street behind me, so I'm going to walk back over the walnut garden.
All right. Yeah, I think we have just some questions about conditioning the bale.
Okay.
So it takes about how long? How many,
Is it
like 2 weeks or something?
It is a 10-day process, but if you buy the bales, if you get real thick bales like I've got at Daisy Feed and Seed, then it could take about 15 days. The conditioning has that set program, like 1 day conditioning, and you have it, and it's in that book. It's in that book, the whole lined out and stuff. So if you want to say, okay, I want to plant at the end of April in my straw bale, then I would back it up to the 15th of April. And then maybe even a week before that to make sure it's all done. So I would say the second week of April, start conditioning your bale. I would do it now, even though it's cold and you're not going to have the heat on your straw bales as much, but, it still will it will start conditioning and stuff. So then when we're ready to plant, which we were told April Fools, I hope is not going to happen, but April 1st is our last frost date or freeze date. So I'm looking forward to that date. So
yes. Let's see, we need the best 2 things. You did say that the place to buy bales around here is Daisy Feed and Seed.
That's where I like to buy it.
So
yeah.
scroll up on the chat and Daisy Feed and Seed. I put their they have a Facebook page. I'm pretty sure I put that in there. If I didn't, I'll do it again.
And also too, anybody who's on the chat, if you notice your 3 buttons to the right around where you type, if you touch those 3 buttons, it says save chat. And that will save it into a document on your computer.
Right.
So you don't have to.
This is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just copy that. And then the other one has to do with herbicides. And is there a place to buy bales that wouldn't have herbicides?
Yeah, that's a hard question because even I don't know about Daisy Feed and Seed. I just know that I know my plants grow out of it. They taste great. Most places that you buy your straw bales are going to say, well, the farmer told me, or I don't think so. We really haven't talked to the farmer. And you're going to have to get that type of a bale. I think you're going to have to really go straight to the farmer, find out who the farmer is that they cut the straw with, because I asked Daisy Feed and Seed, and they don't think it has herbicides in them, but you really can't. I'm not going to fault them for anything if it does, because you can't. One farmer over here can spray, and then the other farmer over here that doesn't spray is going to get the spraying of the other one. So it's just invariably. There's a couple websites, YouTubes I listen to, that one guy, he's a chemical guy, and he commented that everything is a chemical. So it's just a matter of just how you want to treat it and how you want to do it. So think of it this way. And I'm glad that question was asked, because it reminded me too. A lot of people say, well, why do you do straw bales? And I said, no weeds, but there's a lot of other reasons. A lot of people say they don't have the yard. They are rocks. It's all rocks. Well, you can put straw bales on top of rocks. They can say, there's a couple pictures in the book, in the fact of where they did their straw bales where there used to be a chemical plant. Well, when you're watering the bales, the water is going down. It's not soaking it up. So while you're watering there, you can lay, I have ground cover. I don't know if you noticed, I had ground cover underneath my walnut garden. And so, but they just, they say you can just put them anywhere. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you do, where you're planting your straw bales.
Right. Do you get better results with a tighter bale or a looser bale?
You get the same ending result as to what you're growing, but I want now the economy and stuff. If I'm paying $7, which that's about the going price of a bale, if I can make that bale last me 3 years versus 1 year, I'm going for the 3-year bale. It might take a little longer sometimes for the germination or the growing of the plant, but I'm going to have more seasons out of it. Suzanne, I brought Debbie over here to film. I've got her on the our corner garden.
Okay.
And I wanted to show how the trellises that Joel shows in his book. You look up here, this is a T-post, and it has a wood over here, and it's got a hole in it, and it's tied there. These are great, and I've got this all around here. I call this is going to be my and I have photos in my Facebook on it. Last year I had to have a tree cut down, and where there's where there's lemons, you can always make lemonade. Well, one of the legs of the truck that had to take this tree down went in the middle of this garden. This used to be a straw bale garden where I always had straw bales and grew and everything like that. It was wonderful, but it sunk it down 3 feet, and I had to do something with it. So I filled that up with straw bales from the year before, filled it up, and I get banana peels from Smoothie Kings, and I put banana peels all over in there, and I just kept piling cardboard and all this other stuff last summer, midsummer. No, it'd been a year ago. It was a year ago, last October. So it's about this time frame, maybe April. I started working on all that and getting it all done. And then I ended up putting some more spent straw, like straws that I've grown out of, in there and layered it. And I put my sweet potatoes in it, and it went hog wild. But I still didn't have any straw bales around. So I went ahead and put straw bales all the way around too. That's a photo, I think, Suzanne, one of the photos you picked out. And I put bell peppers and all that. I'm not sure if I would do this that way again, because the sweet potato vines, they crawled up here along the trellis and all the way down, and we just had the vines. You can eat the vines and everything of the leaves and all that of sweet potatoes. So we have designated this to being the sweet potatoes, but I'm not going to do the straw bales around it because they were just so fast in coming over that I broke the straw bales up and put them in here. So there are this last year's straw bales in there too. And this is going to be a sweet potato. We'll be turning this around in the next month. and turning it into a sweet potato bin again. But I really wanted to show you how the vines are and how you do your trellising. I've always had tomatoes. I mean, I started out with tomatoes in the straw bales here. I've had squash here. And then these guys were my sweet potato vines, but all of anything you want to do, it doesn't look really pretty right now because it needs to be re-cleaned up and stuff. But your trellises are the greatest things because I'd show you where my straw bale, there's pictures on my Facebook page, but my first one was right here on the concrete. And as I said, I had T-posts. I had trellises on my rows of straw bales, and they were anchored with water in containers, kitty litter containers. And man, it was, I mean, I had squash. My picture that you see on my own Facebook page, I have a summer squash, that's off of growing out of my first years of experiment with straw bales. So there's a lot there. I mean, you can do a lot. So any other questions? Have you guys energized from making worm castings to growing in straw bales?
And do you take your worm when you put a plant in is when you put the worm castings in? So if you're gonna like put seeds or plant something in this garden here, do you put the worm castings in a layer, or do you put it in when you put the plant or the seed in?
You do both, but one year I took buckets and buckets of my worm castings and I spread it all over my my spent straw bale. I turned it into a raised bed like I did again this year, and I just dumped it all over it. And then when I do my potting up of pots, I put about a tablespoon of worm castings in each pot that I pot up.
Okay, somebody's looking for bamboo stalks to use as stakes for vertical growing.
Well, they can talk to me because we had a 30 feet by 60 feet area of bamboo that started dying about 5 years ago. And a friend of mine came over and his buddy, and we have been cutting it down, and Debbie and her husband have been cutting it down. So I have bamboo dried. Some of it is split, but some of it is very still good that you can use for trellises and for sticks. So have them give me a call.
Okay.
Because I've got bamboo.
So everybody have Robbie's number, so write down her number. I'll do it again. 423, what is it? 423? Robbie.
423-240-4075.
423-240. And the last is what? I'm sorry.
4075.
That's right. 4075. I knew there was a lot of fours and O's in there. 423-240-4075.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So write this down, everybody. And give her a call.
Oh, a couple things on the straw bales too. If anyone has greenhouses, you can do your straw bales in greenhouses. I did one in one of my greenhouses here. It's like a 12 by 7. And I put my straw bales in there and I conditioned them, and I grew tomatoes, you name it, out of that too in the greenhouse. Now I started them when it was cold, so that when it got hot, then I take the cover of the greenhouse off. It's a small one. It's like this one here. This one's got some plastic on it and stuff, trying to keep, it's got a small space here. This is my active greenhouse here. But you can do it. The one thing when you do it, you have to be careful. When you are conditioning bales, they will have, I had the word ammonia smell. I mean, it will overpower you. So you do have to be careful when you're doing straw bales in a greenhouse. It just during the conditioning time. Once they are conditioned and all the nitrogen's gone and all that stuff, then they settle down and you can do whatever. So, but you can do that. There's something else on the straw bales that, no weeds is, I just keep thinking, oh, children. I'm going to go back over to Walnut Garden. How many of you garden with your kids? I wish I had my kids closer than I can, but how neat. In fact, well, let me put it this way. I graduated as a master gardener in 2017. The very next week, I had rotator cuff surgery. I had all my straw bales done. And my friends came over the day before and helped plant my straw bales. During that, after a while recuperating with my, there's a picture on my Facebook page on that too. It's still in my sling and stuff. That family came back over and helped me do some more stuff in straw bales. And they worked with me in the straw bales. And it is so cool to work with kids in straw bales because they're like, wow, you know. Oh, and also too, anybody who is elderly that cannot get around, wheelchair accessible, how neat it is to work with people at this level. There are pictures in Joel's book where someone got some pews from a church and they have their straw bales on the pews. And so, but it's so neat. How many have backaches? Knee, I mean, this is my other thing. I don't have a backache anymore because I'm working higher and smarter. So that's another big one. I love that about it stuff. It's unique. It's really a unique type thing. So, any other
Good.
questions?
Can you go back to your porch area where we were first, and hold up that sheet of conditioning?
Okay, yeah, we'll do
So
that.
that we can, maybe people can take that. We can, I don't know how many people can do screenshots. It was a little crooked. We'll position it so that it's close enough and clear enough that maybe people can take a screenshot. But of
Yeah,
course,
I'll put it on the porch, lay it on the porch, and we'll take a shot that
yeah.
way.
Unless you're, yeah, this is good. Anybody have any questions while Robbie's walking over there?
Yeah,
Unmute
if you
and-
really
and
want to
ask.
look about where we're at, we're here. Hamel Road's right there. So if you ever want to come driving down our street, this is Crescent Club. So if you ever wanted to come down and look at it from this distance, you know, that you'll see the straw bales walnut garden right off of the street.
Does anybody have any questions that they want to say?
It is so neat to work in straw bales. Here,
All
I'm
right.
gonna do this and just have
All
you.
right. Let's see, can we do that? Can people see that? I could try to take a screenshot. I don't know what it'll turn out to be like. Do you have that? Maybe you can send it to me as a document
I could.
and then I can send it out.
Yeah. Oops,
Or
there
not.
we go.
Yeah.
Is
let
that
me try
good?
again. It's all right. It's a little blurry. It's hard to tell. It's hard between there's only so much
Oh,
technology.
you know what? Here, let's do this. Wait a minute. Let's do it this way. Try that.
I think it's the camera.
Oh,
You need to move it. Yeah, I think it's just, if anybody can try taking a screenshot of that, I'm not sure it's gonna turn up to be anything. All right. So, but if you can just email me that maybe, would people like that? It's going to be, all right, let's see. There are no worms in the straw bales, correct?
There can be.
Suzanne, you have to stop talking. Suzanne, you have to stop talking because when you talk, your picture comes up on the screen and we can't see what she's showing us.
Ah, all right. I will put it on. All right, let's try that again and I won't talk. Robbie, hold up your,
Are you okay on? Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna talk until the picture is now too far over. You need to move it towards your feet. There you go. Okay, I'll stop talking. Take your screenshots, people. I guess, Robbie, you need to talk.
No, then it won't. I guess, oh, that would be true. It would make me the screen. How technically we are getting, right? I love this. How's that? Did everyone get
I
that?
think, hopefully people who got it. And then if you could just,
Follow me. Come help me. Come help me grow in my straw bales.
yeah, okay, yeah, and,
Excuse me, you need to put that on the internet, a copy of that, to try to screenshot it. It's too blurry to read.
I'll put it in the Facebook. I'll put it in the live Facebook when we're all done.
yeah, that's it.
I'll put it on my face. It'll be on my Facebook page, the Gospel Urban Farmer, and then I can also put it on Hamilton County, right underneath the live presentation as a
That
comment.
will work. That'll be fine. That'll be good. And I'll put, yes, and I might be able to even put the chat there too. If I can, I will. I'll add that to the comments under the live, and the live, this live stream will be on the Master Gardener Facebook page. It just, when we're through, it'll just need to process for a few minutes, and then it'll be there, and it will be there forever. It just gets further down the feed as we add posts to it, but you can just go under videos and it'll be there.
I'll keep it up on my page on the very my advertising of this is on pinned on my page, and I'll make it a comment on my page, so it'll be up at the top.
Let's see, is wheat straw good?
Yes, that is exactly what you're ending up getting is wheat straw. That's perfect. Joel's story is really good, and the fact that he grew up. This is like about 30 years ago now. Well, he's in his 40s, so yeah. And so he grew up, and they had a big farm, and they had straw bales and stuff, and he would do all the strawing and baling and all that stuff, and all the bales that would break apart, he threw against the barn, and then also the barn, he saw all this stuff growing out of his bales, and thought, wow, things can. Because if you leave a straw bale out a whole year, it's pretty much conditioned, and you don't have to do the nitrogen and stuff. You just do the 10-10-10. So, and that's what I'm doing with these bales is only getting 10-10-10 because they've been out all year. And that's what happened too. I did 8 or some straw bales around, and I put a whole bunch of potting soil in the middle to do my potatoes, not knowing potatoes could grow out of straw bales. But I put all my potatoes in there. These straw bales, I never conditioned them. I just let them go. And then for the whole year, and then I grew lettuce on the top of them, and they grew. But they got a lot of weather in that type stuff.
Okay.
Sun, rain, natural conditioning. But they won't naturally condition like what we want within 3 months by themselves. It takes a good 6 to 8 months and a lot of weather. It's fun. I enjoy that. I went back. Let me put it this way. I went back to doing raised beds one year. Stopped. I just filled everything up with potting soil one year, and then I left it through the winter time. And oh my gosh, that spring, I had so many weeds on that raised bed because I didn't cover it. I didn't know you're supposed to cover raised beds to prevent weeding. But it took me forever to get all of the weeds out of that raised bed. And I said, you know what? No, not again. We're doing straw bales.
Any other questions? I'm just putting in Joel Carson's Straw Bale Gardening website. I had it in earlier, but I'm putting it in again. This is, if you just go there, that's his website. And I think you can get his book from there too, I would imagine. Anything else? Anybody wanna
Yeah.
say anything? Have any questions? I'm sure you'll get some phone calls.
If I don't return your phone call this afternoon, Debbie and I are going to the Urban Horticulture this afternoon to do a seed swap. It starts at 1 o'clock and goes to about, I think, 3 o'clock.
Okay, let me
And
just
I'll
do
try to
this.
return all your calls after that.
I'm just gonna get our Facebook page up there. I think maybe we have, I think we have exhausted the topic. Well, we
All right.
haven't exhausted it forever, but we've exhausted it for today.
Oh, I hope it interested you guys to know that there is more ways of gardening, and it's just a fun aspect. And in Joel's book, it's really worth, just in the back of it even talks about how just to garden, with the certain plants and stuff. By the way, it has also designs, like there's like 6 pages of how you can design what to go in what bale and how much. I mean, in one bale, I put 2 tomatoes. I'll put maybe 2 okra. And then when I put my okra, then I put a small stuff underneath it, like basil, or I've done some other stuff. So, and it's different varieties of what to do. Don't limit yourself. Sometimes I limit myself on what I put in a bale. The more you put in, yes, the shorter time you have that bale, but the more production of food you have. And right now, these days, we need to make sure that we're eating and providing for ourselves our food, and
Yeah.
knowing where it's coming from and how valuable it is for us.
Robbie, do you rotate the planting, like for beans and things like that, or anything that needs, do you plant different things each year in different places?
I plant different things, different places, but not for the reason of rotating. It's I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one thing on straw bales. You don't have last year's stuff in there. Now I
That's
do,
right.
if I do on the straw bales, like if I had tomatoes in there and I have tomatoes again and tomatoes again, many years you can, in a raised bed, you need to, rotate your crop around because of how it depletes things. In a straw bale, you're basically only going to get 2 full used seasons out of it, which is not bad. And then you take it and use it. That's their 3rd year, use it some other way. But what I do is I see what happened with the plant, not because of the straw bale, but because of what the weather did or how I planted it. Like I put all my long green beans on the south side of my arch over there. Well, those beans just went climbing up here. Well, I had all those tomatoes underneath the arch. Well, they got swallowed up. So now this year, I'm putting my long green beans on this side. Now I have so much frozen. I blanched so much long green beans and gave away long green beans. I mean, I probably had over 50, 60 pounds of green beans this past year. It was wonderful. And these are the long Chinese green beans, and so they were cool.
That's great. Let's see, do you need to put marigolds and things around the bales to keep out bugs and squirrels? And did you have a less problems with squash borers?
Yes and no. I'm with, as to marigolds, yes. In fact, when the family that came over and planted everything in my straw bale before I had my rotator cuff surgery, they had a 3-year-old, and I gave him a big bag of marigolds, and they just threw it. He just threw it and stuff. Yes, it's nice to have marigolds everywhere. Nasturtiums, that's edible flower. Borage is another edible flower. And you can put things that draws pollinators, and it also too distracts things. There are different aspects. You can see what is good for and not good for attracting plants and stuff, or pollinators. What was the last part of your question?
Squash borer, do you have less
Oh.
problem with pests like that?
Yeah, when I did my straw bales that very first year in that walnut garden area, you know, I had 23 bales and I had 4 different squashes. Butternuts didn't have any problems because they, for some reason, I don't know what it is with them, they don't get squash vine burrows. The other ones did. Straw bales are not going to prevent squash vine burrows. You're going to have the same problem. So whatever you would use in a raised bed as to protecting your squash, do it in a the straw bales. The one thing with the straw bales, it is up higher, and you're able to reach down and be able to do whatever protection. Like I used a lot of DE on it, and then I also packed it. Also, too, what is really neat, like when you see you had a squash affected and it's over close to your bale, you can cut it off and stick it back down into that squash, that bale. I mean, that squash into the bale, and it's going to root. And so you started off a new thing, and you can just pull that old one out. I wouldn't, that's another thing too. I wouldn't ever pull things out of my bale when they're done, cut them off at the top, because that way the roots will stay down there. They will compost into your bale, and then your bale is still in a strong, solid area. Did that answer that question?
I think so, hopefully. I think what we should do is everybody put yourself on gallery so we can all see. And if you want to, a lot of us are hiding behind our names, but if you want to put your videos on so we can all give Robbie a big round of applause. Unmute yourselves.
Oh.
Give Robbie a big round of applause, because this was great.
Well, I hope the video was good, that it wasn't too jerky or
It was good. No, we worked out all the glitches yesterday. It was great.
Oh, good. Yeah, and this is my I'm sorry, this is Debbie, my cohort. She's my associate. She and I have a lot of things together. So, but she's
so thank you, Debbie. You did a great job. You did a great job.
You guys, thanks for being part of this. And every one of you is someone who can teach somebody else how to garden. So whatever you learn here, share with somebody else.
For sure. Anybody, any comments? Unmute and let's all just, you have to unmute yourselves. I think there's a way I can unmute everybody, but I haven't figured out what it is.
Robbie,
Yes.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm outside. I can barely see everybody.
I think we're good. Yes. Yeah, we should
Barbara.
probably should turn the camera. You're on the,
Go
well, you'll
inside.
see it in the when we go on the, all right. So everybody, thank you for coming.
I'm gonna
The next big
gallery
Master
itself.
Gardener event is the Expo. The Master Gardener Expo on April 9th and 10th, and then our next third Saturday class is April 16th. So look to your emails and the Facebook page for information about that. But Expo, tell your friends. If you don't have a flyer, we'll have some at the Ag Center, I think. But thanks a lot for coming. Thank you, Robbie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carol, if you're still here.
Yes.
And you know where to reach Robbie if you have questions, and I guess we should all plant straw bales because it seems like the way to go.
I think it is. It's a great avenue, great possibility and stuff. So yeah. So I'm glad you all came.
So I am going to.
Barb, hi, I got to see you. There you go. I came inside, I could see you better.
Yeah, there you are. Now you can enjoy. So I'm going to stop the